Joe Allen said after the game on Saturday that there was a lot of frustration and a lot of anger even in the dressing room after the game. Presumably you'll hope they'll channel that anger into the match tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the way the game went and the situation at the minute, it's just the nature of where we are. You know, we're all a bit frustrated. We all are working incredibly hard to change where we are. It's as simple as that, you know. And if you look at the game, in some ways, you know, the fact that we started really poorly for 10 minutes, which was disappointing, particularly at home, which, you know, we know the importance of you know, A, getting a home result, and B, starting well to help that home result and help the crowd and the atmosphere and everything. So I think the frustration really was having gone a goal down, and it almost woke us up to actually in some ways having a pretty good period for about probably an hour, where we end up getting chances, getting bodies in the box, hitting the post, having more opportunities on goal than I think we have done previously, getting more people attacking good areas than we have done previously, for which Sam Klukas helped us to do that. And then scoring 2 good goals in their own right, and then really being in control. And that, I think the frustration really was off the back of getting ourselves 2-1 up, feeling like we're in a certain amount of control for 10-15 minutes. And then the nature of the second goal, you know, it was very unavoidable, which we've said so many times this season. So you know, and then if you feel like the way the game then ended, of course, we huffed and puffed a little bit and couldn't quite get the winner. It felt like a defeat, you know, and that was just the nature of the way the game worked. You know, it felt like we'd thrown something away. It felt like a defeat. So of course you then go into the dressing room disappointed, and when you've done that on a few occasions, you know, everyone's disappointed with each other. Like you say, what you then do is in the ensuing days is you start to look at some of the things you actually did better than you've done in previous games in the match, and some of the things you actually need to work on. But last few days have been pretty positive. I think we've seen some good signs, but of course we all know we need to turn those good signs into wins. We're all aware of that.
You've talked about the first 10 or so minutes where we were slow out of the blocks again, and I'm assuming that you tried to do everything possible to make certain that changes. But is there anything that you've thought of? I'm not asking you to tell me, but is there anything you've thought about in the last couple of days that can improve that situation so we start on the front foot?
I think it's a mentality, you know, it's a mental thing. I think it's just a mental side of playing at home. I mean, I think the nature of it is not an excuse, but the nature of it is when you've had poor form at home, and some of those players have also been part of that poor form over a longer period, you know, there is a little bit of a mental block, and sometimes you know, the only way to get through that is to try to be a little bit more forceful early on, and that's what we spoke to the players about it before the game, and we spoke a little bit more about really just trying to be free for the first 10 minutes and take the game to the opposition. To do that, really, you have to be high in confidence and be able to take risks, and we didn't quite do that, you know, for whatever reason. So but it's certainly our intention. The players know that. I think it's their intention, but we just need to find a better solution, you know. And I think it is just a mentality. It's a mentality to go and win your tackles early, go and win your headers early, you know, get on the front foot, run past the opposition and take them the other way and make them defend, you know. And that's what it is. It's really about putting teams under pressure. Every team will talk about it and try to do it, mainly at home, not so much sometimes away from home, because you can have a different outlook. But, you know, it's certainly something we have to do better. And I think at the moment, of course, when we start like that, you know, the crowd don't get behind it because it's not the start we want, and it kind of blends into a melting pot of a little bit, oh, everyone's waiting for everyone to do something, you know. And we can't do that. We've got to be braver. We've got to be better than that. I don't think it's a huge problem. But I think the facts behind it are, it's worth the risk, because I think if you look at, you know, we've only scored first in 7 games this season. We've won 5 and drawn 2. That's the fact. So in some ways the start is worth having a little bit of a gamble to try and see if you can get that first goal. There's different ways of doing that, of course. You can't just then go gung-ho and chuck players forward willy-nilly, because of course you leave yourself open the other end. But it's certainly worth trying to create a little bit of early tempo, and most teams will try to do it. Some will be successful, some won't be successful, and at the moment we need to find a better way to do it.
A lot of the fans are calling for you to perhaps play 2 strikers up front. you're dependent a great deal at the moment on the midfield players getting forward to help. Do you have any comments to make to the fans on that?
I think it's without being disrespectful, it's a generic view of fans that they always see that as a solution. But if you look up and down the country, Man City, for example, play with one striker, but they'll obviously support that striker very quickly with other players. I think every team throughout the land plays most teams, 90% play a different format of one striker and different players supporting. We've played games where we've played a striker on the left coming inside and joining in, and it's not. I don't think that's necessarily a solution. What I would say is that we want to get our midfielders quicker in support to whichever striker plays. We want to get our midfielders in the box. I think Joe Allen got in the box for both goals, scoring the second one. Sam Klukas gets in the box for the first one, setting it up. James McLean gets in the box, so I actually felt we got, but I think it's more about getting bodies in and around those areas rather than necessarily just let's play two strikers, because that's my opinion, and obviously of course as a manager I live or die by that decision, and I'm aware of that. That's the nature of the game, but my opinion is that that's a common theme to ask for. The reality is doesn't necessarily make you any more attacking or more successful. It's about getting bodies forward, and it's about having the quality then to use those bodies in the attacking third.
So tomorrow, when we hope all the bodies get into the attacking third, Derby better than most people, having worked there. How special is the match for you as a manager, or is it just another game?
No more special at all. And that's not me dampening down how good a club Derby County is. That's not me dampening down my experiences there as a player, then a coach, then a manager there. But that's the reality. Is there is no emotion to the game. The game is one where we're fighting hard for Stoke City. We're working incredibly hard to try to get to where we want to be a little bit quicker. I think we've made, even though you can't see it, we've made a lot of strides in certain areas compared to the last couple of seasons. But of course, the expectation and the fact we're in the Championship means that that's not enough at the moment for anyone, and we're aware of that. So, but the game is more important to us rather than me looking at the emotion of the game. I'll be really, really honest. It won't matter to me. Derby County fans can sing what they want, they can do what they want. It won't. Whilst they're singing about me, they're not supporting their own team. So I'll be quite happy if they spend the whole 95 minutes abusing me. And my team can just try and get on with attempting to win the game against a very good Derby side that have been led by an impressive Frank Lampard in his first role.
The weather forecast is not great for tomorrow, so it'll be a wet.
Just told the lads about it, they didn't believe me.
A wet and windy night in the Potteries, and we've got 3 games in 8 days.
Yeah.
Will you consider any changes because of that?
Yeah, we consider it. Not necessarily because of the weather, just because of the nature of maybe what we need for the game, and also maybe what we need in terms of energy in a midweek game. I think often the challenge for most managers, particularly with it being a Wednesday game, sometimes the challenge is more on the Saturday, but of course you can negate that by making some changes in the week, and then it's less of a problem. I think with the squad we've got, we'll always look to tweak 1 or 2 areas. I think it's very difficult nowadays to just keep picking. Sometimes you want to pick the same team to get continuity, but it's actually very difficult to pick the same team when you've got so many good players not in the team. So the reality is we will look at 1 or 2 areas. We'll look at different ways in which we need to deal with Derby, hurt Derby, whatever the tactical solution is, and we will consider making some changes. Whether I actually will make the changes will be a different matter.
And Tom Ince came through the game okay on Saturday. Any other injury news?
No, Tom Ince came through the game fine. I think he was a little bit sore the next day, but feels better for it now, and of course played his part in both the goals. Sam Klukas came through the game actually better probably than anyone thought he did. And if I actually look back on the game, when I took him off at that point, having watched the game back, he probably didn't show us a lack of energy that I thought maybe he would do, and I thought he saw the game through really, really well. So I was really surprised of how well he coped in the game and actually how good his performance was. So I think that means that we can make whatever decision we want, not based on how people have recovered coming back into the team so quickly, and just simply down to what we think the game requires.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I was going to say was that you must have been disappointed with a full-back tearing down the pitch and scoring a couple of goals against you. You were a full-back, if I remember rightly. Are you thinking you're getting your boots out to show the lads what they're missing?
Yeah, I'm sure with my lack of pace these days, I probably also wouldn't have been able to track back particularly well. But yeah, it was disappointing. Look, both the goals were disappointing. You know, I spoke about it after the game. I don't think a full-back should ever end up in the box twice. With a clear chance on goal, let alone once, let alone at any point of the game. So, and the reality is, you know, the players will know that, and we've got to be better.
And as you say, it's all about preparation and mentality, you know. And as you say, the weather and the cacophony of noise is probably going to come from those Derby supporters. Are the players actually mentally ready for this game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, we're at home. We have an incredible desire to try to improve our form. You know, again, what the opposition fans' noise they make. Although I have heard that it's meant to be pretty windy, so you know, if a few inflatables might get caught on the wind from the Derby fans, you know, that's going to be a little bit problematic. So you know, it'd be interesting to see how the atmosphere is. But like I said, look, I'm not anything that adds to the atmosphere of a game makes the game a good game to be part of. You know, and that's I'll be looking forward to it.